Obviously, it was a great victory. It was a great football game, and San Diego State. It's a battle with those guys, and went right down to the wire. And it was a back and forth football game, and we had the lead most of the time. But obviously, against those guys and the way they play and the belief that they have, and the quarterback is exactly what I thought he was watching film. The guy's a winner. He's a battler. He keeps fighting, and he made a couple plays to get him back into the football game. So it's a tremendous victory on the road. I thought the kids handled everything well as far as the trip went, and it's great to be 1-0 in conference, and it's great to have an opportunity to come home and play our second conference game here against Colorado State, and away we go. But I just a ton of respect for that team we played, a ton of respect for the kids on our football team, and the way they battled and fought, and it's a great college football game. We came out on top, and our kids prepared very well. Colorado State. A lot of offensive weapons. You can look at what they've done this year and where they've gone, and big, tall, athletic, fast receiving core, a back that ran forever and a day last week and had some big plays. So offensively, they give you a lot to deal with. I have not spent a lot of time watching them on defense. I've just taken the time, obviously, with our early morning arrival, I guess you would say, back into Logan at 6 o'clock on Sunday morning. We got a little bit behind, but we'll get caught up on that, and look forward to getting the kids in here at 1:45 and quickly evaluate the film and move on to Colorado State.
Coach, the game Jordan Love played, people look and see no touchdown passes, and they say, oh, maybe one of his off games. It was maybe one of the best games he's ever played efficiently, and catching those snaps and not having problems with that stuff was huge.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You have an aggressive front by scheme, by nature, and what they bring at you. There's so many different looks. You put on top of that we definitely had snap issues, which was a problem. Anybody that watched the football game, you can see that has to be fixed, and that puts a quarterback in a position to try to see where a potential free hitter may be coming. And also catch a snap. It's hard. It's a tough deal, but I thought Jordan handled it well, got the ball out when he needed to. We had some contested balls that were caught that were just huge. The slants that Cioce kept catching, and save on. It looks like a routine play when a guy jumps off sides and you snap the ball and you throw a fade to him and you get a huge play. That's not hard. That is hard. That takes a lot of coaching and a lot of time to prepare for those things. So we made big plays in big time moments when we needed to in that football game, and we got the drive at the end of the game to put us in position to kick a field goal to seal the deal. At that point, obviously that didn't take place, but that was a big time drive. And the other thing is that G. Bright block like crazy. Another thing that you just don't see if you're just sitting there watching the football game sometimes, unless you really hone in on it. But that kid was battling, and so was Jalen. Those backs were picking guys up from abnormal scenarios and positioning where people are coming from. That is just not traditional, 4 down front or 3 down front football and a linebacker blitzing an A gap or a B gap. And that's the beauty of Rocky's defense. It's very, very difficult. And but I thought Jordan was efficient. And sure, you want to finish those drives with touchdowns, and that's our goal, and that'll be obviously the offense's goal from Mike, and it'll be the goal for Jordan. And we want to finish those drives, but at the end of the day, it was enough to get a team victory, and I was proud of the way Jordan handled it. And Jordan he's going to just battle and work to be a great player, which we all know he's a great player. Whatever position or situation is in front of him, he fights through it.
And then your offensive line did not allow a sack under all of that, and you had Coach that got hurt and things like that. To have things happen up front has to be good at what's going on. And you did get some running plays when you had to.
We did, and you're exactly right. To walk out of there without a sack, and again, that's all of them. That's the running backs, yes. That's the offensive line, yes. It's the tight ends. It's Jordan catching the ball and getting it out and finding the people that are there. So I thought they all worked very, very well together. It's the scheme, and so for that to take place against that defense in that situation is. It's awesome to see it and to watch it be. There wasn't confusion. I think we had one 3 and out the whole game. First series we went 3 and out, never went 3 and out the rest of the game. So we were able to continually keep the chains going. You looked up there the first drive, they go, they get 3 points on whatever that was, a 14-play drive, and half the first quarter's gone. So I was like, whoa, it's a fast game. But the offense did a nice job of handling that, and it was great to see.
You guys generally never give up a 4th and 16. Dominic rarely misses a field goal. It's kind of flukish that ball got tipped. Otherwise, COC gets a PI. You guys can kneel on the ball and ice the game there. Even with all the things going against you in the fourth quarter, you still found a way to win the game. So, I mean, just reflecting on that, really, how big of a deal was it?
Well, it was, college football, just look week in and week out. I mean, the Washington State game, UCLA game, if that doesn't top it all off, then anything can happen in college football. You have to be prepared for the moment. And kids at times are going to be put in adverse situations, and we talk about it all the time. And, it was all going fairly smooth, and we were doing what we were doing and moving in the direction we needed to move to be able to close out the game, and all of a sudden adversity struck on us. And we answered the bell at the end of the day. We made it the play we needed to be able to make. But it's you go back and get into that situation, and there's 10 plays on our side, 10 plays on their side, maybe more that you can look back and say, well, that's a play here, it's a play there. But that's the game we play. That's football. You're going to have those situations. It's going to happen again, and we're either going to be on the plus side or the negative side of that. And so to see them push through that adversity and make the play when they had to make was awesome. And we could have fallen on a punt that was muffed. There's a lot. You look at it and you just say, whoa, just try to find a way to put these guys down and move on to the next one. And to San Diego State's credit, they kept fighting. Our team kept fighting, and we were able to close it off with obviously the big sack at the end.
Punting wise, Callister handled the majority of the duties. Is that what was the reason for that, and is that going to be a permanent state now?
Well, we'll see. We'll see how as we move through time. And I thought the biggest thing I would say about that right now, and Coach Collins is in a great spot right there, and all the kids are battling like crazy. But to get in the position, this was Pierce's week. He kicked the ball extremely well. He had an opportunity to do it. He was ready for the moment, and there's a lot that goes into that. We'll keep moving forward, but those guys are going to compete like crazy, and there's some injuries there that you go back and forth, and you want to get guys in the best spot to be able to compete, and they've handled it well, like this football team has all the way across the board. And for him to walk into that spot, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and he boomed the ball at sea level. So if he does that here, watch out. It might be landing deep in the stands sometimes when we want it to land on the 5-yard line. So hopefully you can control it in the mountain air.
And then Andy goes out. I'm not sure how long he's out, but your offensive line, next man up. Can you just talk about the ability to have someone else come in the midst of a hostile environment and perform that well? Yeah,
those kids are, their goal is to be 8 or 9 strong for sure as we go through there. And there's young men there that play multiple positions. They know when their number's called, they've got to hop up and go. And and it's great to see that. It's not just 5 starters on the offensive line. It's much like the defensive line. They don't rotate as much as the offensive line as we do on the defensive line. But I really think those kids see themselves as 8 starters that can go in there and compete and play at any level. And we've seen that in 3 games already. And I'm sure with the sheer nature of football, you'll continue to have some of those scenarios and those situations, and that's just that starts with Coach Woods helping those kids understand that we're all in this together. There's not a selfish mentality in that room at all, and when it's their turn, they've obviously hopped in there and done a nice job. So it's just great to see a team that fights and battles that way. When it's good and when it's bad, they fight that way, and there's not a bunch of again, woe is me or finger pointing or putting their head down. They grind and they're looking to get better, and that's from a young group to see that maturity in them personally is potentially really, really special for future this year and for many years to come.
Should we expect to see Andy back anytime soon, or do you know?
I don't know that for sure. That's Mike, and everybody's going to be working with it. He'll work his tail off to get himself back. So we'll see what takes place with that. And he'll do his part. He's a big part of the duties that he has past what all the other things he does for us. He's a big part of this football team.
Dom at Emberley was the player of the week, special teams, but he probably left the game feeling like he didn't perform like he should for you.
Yeah, well, there's nobody in the world that wants that more than him. I've said it all along, special teams will win us games. And, you can look at the one and say, yeah, well, that didn't go our way, but the other ones did. And they were big. They were huge. In a game like that, in that setting, that situation, it's a 6-point game. So all the faith in the world in that crew as a unit, from the snappers, holder, kickers, they'll get that done, and they'll load it back up, and that kid will get out there. He'll have a smile on his face today, and that smile will have a little bit of a a cringe in it, I'm sure, which it should, and he'll be excited to come out and show everybody exactly what he's all about in those moments. But he's a great kicker, and we have all the faith in the world that he'll get it done for us. And he was a huge part of that victory. And you can't always it's all three of them together, right? It's the snap, it's the hold, it's the kick, and they were a huge part of that victory. And then you can't discount the protection either.
It's easy to point at that last play with Nick and Justice chasing Agnew to the end zone. It's evidence that your defensive line was playing pretty well, especially pressure on the quarterback in the fourth quarter. Was that something that you saw? Was this just gradual improvement? Because early in the year they weren't getting this much.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it early in the year there was a lot of max protection, like we've talked about before. Those 7-man protections and the slide protections, it's hard to get 4 guys in there regardless of what you're doing. If they do it right, which most teams do, you've got 3 double teams, and you're sitting there putting yourself in a position it makes it difficult, no matter how they identify or try to find those double teams. But I felt like we did. I felt like we got some good pressure on the quarterback when we had the opportunity. We were able to run some games that were nice, and even in the run game or the shovel pass when Tipa made the TFL, that was a nice twist game that we were able to hit, and the kids ran it well and they executed it. So I thought, but I would agree with you, the defensive ends, I thought rush the passer much more effective at times. We did at the defensive tackle spot. We can play better at the defensive tackle spot overall, and we need to play better at the defensive tackle spot. That crew of kids they were solid, but I don't think they played the game that they should have played this last game. And maybe I'm a little harder on those guys because I'm highly involved with that position group daily and working with those kids. But the defensive ends definitely, rushed the passer better. It was good to see them make some big plays, and a minus whatever that was, 35-yard sack and a fumble is always a positive.
Getting Haney back looked like it helped to kind of solidify things a little bit, but you do lose. It made, I don't know, Gilliam's situation with injury, but you lose one, but you gain one back. The secondary, did they play better in this
Yes.
game? It felt like they did.
Yeah, it was Cam came in and did a nice job. He was he kept himself in shape as he went through that as much as you can, and he was back. He had a nice week of practice. I think he reacted well to the situation. I thought the DBs tackled extremely well. DJ was in there numerous times on those plays going to the boundaries, and Cam was there numerous times. And Troy's in the middle of the field more, but he has no problem getting in the middle of it when he has the opportunity. And when Cash was in there, he did a nice job. So it was good to see that physicality in the tackling part of this the game within the defensive backs as a whole, but it was definitely better. Grayson got a ton of reps out there and working and doing what he was doing, so it was a positive. We'll be challenged mightily this week with giant receivers that have made some big time plays, and so that'll be a huge test. But there was definitely a step forward in that direction, which was awesome to see. And that group of kids is very prideful and playing very hard right now.
Yeah, because that's been the thing over the years with Colorado State. They've always had 1 or 2 big receivers that have always been a problem for us. And
Make it 3 this year.
Yeah. That's a big part of their game is those huge receivers and throwing it up there.
It is. Yeah, there's mismatches, and when you got a guy that has that speed and that length and just quite frankly the ball skills. It was before the half of the last week's game, they throw it up on a Hail Mary, and the quarterback has a big arm. The transfer kid from Nebraska, he's got a big arm. He loves to throw the ball across the field. He's a good quarterback, and he lets her rip about 50 yards, a Hail Mary, and they catch it on the half-yard line. Didn't score, but they caught it on the half-yard line. So he just out-jumped everybody and said, "That's my ball," and it was a hell of a rebound. Man, he got it. He went up and got that rebound.
And then the running back, he was unbelievable in the game too.
He was, yeah, 200 and some odd yards.
What do you see for him?
Great speed, a big back, physical is needed when they get him into the inside run game. But if he sees a crease, he's going to be very, very difficult to catch. Once he gets to the second level, he's extremely fast. And that's on tape. That's not sitting here telling you guys something that you can't flip on the tape and see. So there's a lot of weapons. And that last game they played was a track meet. It was up and down the field on both sides, I suppose. I haven't watched the other tape, like I said, but I have watched their offense, and it was a very, very powerful offense for that 3.5 hours. But they got some good football players.
Because Colin Hill went to the Manning camp with Jordan, and they lose him, and this guy comes in and throws for 400 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6'5", 244.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
so obviously Is he mobile at all? They just leave him in the pocket and protect? They've always had good offensive lines at Colorado State.
Yeah, the offensive line, you're right. They always do, right? They're big, strong, physical offensive linemen, and I think that's a lot. They recruit to that, and they're prideful with that within their community of where they live, much like we are at Utah, right? We're prideful of that here, of finding those big, strong, physical kids and developing them within the program. And Colorado State's been like that with Sonny for ever and ever, and that's not going to change. That's been adopted by the new staff as they've gone through time, obviously. But, you know, if you sit back and look at the quarterback as a whole, big, strong, physical kid, runs plenty good enough to at least get your attention for sure. But he's a gunslinger now. I mean, he has no problem, like I said, you know, if he's going to throw to the opposite hash 8 or 9 times, and that's in college football, that open side hash to the field is something that is mostly defended by the inability of a quarterback to be able to make that throw consistently or get it there fast enough to cause you issues as a defensive scheme. And this kid, now you have to account for that. He's going to wing it out there to a big, tall kid that can stick his foot in the ground and play. You know, much like we can use COC and Jordan for, right? That's always against us. You always have to be able to deal with that field side boundary, because if you do not, then we'll take that all day long and let the kids do their work. And Savon's no different. If he's into the field, he's the same guy out there. And so it's definitely a weapon when you have the quarterback that can throw the ball like that. But this kid can spin it.
This might be the most intriguing year in the Mountain West since the Aggies have been in the Mountain West. I mean, San Jose State beating Arkansas. I mean, even some of the teams that haven't done well the last couple of years are winning some big games. So, I mean, as a coaching staff, how difficult is it to prepare for this conference, especially this year, week in and week out?
Yeah, first of all, it's awesome for the conference, right? It really is. And it seems to me I don't read much. In fact, I don't read any. But what I do hear and what I do see, what Doug gives me basically is there's a lot of good information out there on the Mountain West, and nationally there should be. There should be a lot of respect that's being gained this year with the type of football that's being played. As far as us looking at it, it seems like this is conference game number 2. You see another opponent, and they're good. They're explosive. There's a lot of good football players, and the Mountain West, the fact that they're playing not good football but great football outside of conference is just a huge feather in all of our caps as a conference, and to have it be recognized nationally is big for all of us, and that's what we want, right? We want competitive games in a tough conference where you've got to line up and play good football every single week, and I just think it's going to be very interesting as we move through time to see who can knock off the guys that have been the top of the cream of the crop, I suppose, throughout the years. Is somebody going to be able to really, that we're playing better, is somebody going to be able to go in and knock those guys off, and time will tell.
Coach, for me, just Patrick O'Brien, Colin Hill likes to use his legs a lot, or he did. Is Patrick the same way, or is he more of a pocket guy?
In game 1, he was more of a pocket guy. He's going to go out and spin the football, but they're still doing the read zone things with him, and so there's that option where you have to know where he is. I'm sure his ability to pull it is there, and I'm sure if he sees it and feels it and believes it, he'll pull it. But he's much like Jordan. I think he would rather say, I'd rather give it to that guy than me run the ball a lot, but he's definitely capable as needed.
Just on surface looking at this game, and you said you haven't looked at their defense very carefully, but they've given up a lot. This could be a little more of a wide open game than we saw last week. Was that fair to say?
Yeah, if you just turn around and again you gaze at the numbers and you look at the numbers and you take those for what they're worth after a few football games, you'd look and say, there's a lot of weapons on offense on both sides. The defenses have done some good things at times, but you would say that the offenses would have more body blows and more haymakers than the defenses had, I suppose, by the numbers, and that would be on both sides. So away we go. We'll sit down and we'll see what happens on this Saturday. We good?
Do you like, as a coach, as a defensive coach, do you like to play a team that's more dedicated to being physical, running, or does it scare you more to face a team that maybe is more speed-oriented and more big plays?
I told this talking to the defensive staff last week, we just in our base, not to get too technical, but 2 tight ends on the field or 2 backs in the backfield and 1 tight end and 2 wide receivers, we call it our 43 package. We've practiced that for the last probably 4 years. Just maybe 5% of our practice time for the whole year through practice and spring ball and everything.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah, and goal line. Goal line is the same way. I don't even think we had a goal line package. Nobody ever got into that in the Pac-12 except for maybe Stanford, right? And maybe Cal a little bit, but you worried about it very, very little, and that was only if those guys were on your schedule. Well, we're 2 games into it, and we probably have 50 reps of goal line underneath our belt. It's crazy. So what would I prefer? Either way is fine. It's just, these teams do a nice job of having you play multiple packages on defense, and if you don't play multiple packages, just in my own opinion, I think you'll be in trouble because you need to get the skill on the field to match the skill, and you need to get the big guys on the field to match the big guys on the field, which eats up practice time, which forces more meeting time. That's productive meeting time, and kids being able to grasp some different types of schemes that sometimes in some leagues you don't have to work on nearly as much. So it's it's the way this league is going. Maybe that's the way football is going, but the multiple formations and the bigger groups of people has its own problems of adjusting to, just as the spread stuff does. We good? Okay, thanks. Go Aggies. Thank you.
From offensive standpoint in the game, I felt we did some good things, and I felt we obviously left a lot of points on the field. We were in the red zone quite a bit and did get to come up with touchdowns, which I believe kind of let them stay in the game and made it closer than what it should have been. But credit to them, they never stopped fighting. A well-coached team. They played hard to the very end of the game, so that's a good credit to them. But as an offense, we definitely left some points out on the field. We could have did some things better, but not take away from the things we did good. We did do some things well. We moved the ball well at times, and it showed. But just from our standpoint, from what we believe in, we just got to finish those drives and get 7 points instead of 3 points.
How does it feel? I mean, with the weapons that Jordan Love's got on this team, 3rd and longs, you're his first read every time. It seems to be, and you've made some spectacular catches too, and kind of bailed the offense out. But what does that mean to you to know that Jordan Love's looking at you, 3rd and long for the big catch?
I don't even necessarily say just looking at me. Just during the situation, if he sees a good read and a good match to my side, then I believe he's going to take that. But same with Savon Scarver and Caleb Rapp, Jordan Nathan, and those guys too. If he sees a good matchup, he believes in us all. And it's just always I'm trying to make him right at all times. Whether if he throws the ball my way, I'm going to make sure I catch it, just to make sure he's right and just help my team move the chains and further our success.
There were a lot of really closely contested catches in that game. You had a few, the other guys had them as well. Is that Jordan Love putting the ball in the right place? Is that you guys getting back to the ball as a combination? How are you guys able to make that many closely contested catches?
It's a combination of both. Obviously Jordan Love's a very, very talented quarterback, and we have a very, very talented coach in Jason Phillips. We work drills like that. We work very highly contested drills, and he does a good job of making our drills very game-like. So when we get out there, it's not something we ain't seen before. It's something we already practiced, so it becomes like second nature for us.
Is there a sense of pride that you get when you make those catches when a DB is on you?
Not even sense of pride. It's something you should do, something you're supposed to do. We play receiver, and our job is to make those type of catches and, like I said, make Jordan Love right whenever we can.
It was an interesting game because you guys seemed to be in control, but you never felt like maybe it was going along. What was the feeling of everybody on the team? And then you came out and did do the drive and keep the ball away from them for a good amount there at the end of the game.
Like I said, we obviously left some points out on the field and some things we could have did better. And it's just finishing drive. That was for me. From when I watched from, that was the whole point of the film, just finishing drives and things like that. 7 points is a lot more points than 3. So, if we put on 7 points and 3 points, the score looks totally different going into the final quarter and things like that. But we put ourselves in that position and we faced some adversity. We did good against adversity because obviously we weren't getting the points that we wanted to get scored and things like that, or the points wasn't coming as fast as they usually do. So we faced some adversity, and it was good for us to show that through adversity we can get things done. Like the final drive, we didn't get points out of it, but we held the ball, kind of did what we were supposed to, kept the ball away from them and made it and put them in a tough position to go score.
Heard a guy on TV say the same thing that I've heard Aggie fans say. How did Utah not use you as much as we're using you? Now, obviously, maybe it's a whole different offensive deal, but talk about, the transition of now being a major player all the time offensively?
The Utah thing, they did what they could. I did what I could during that time period. And it worked out every now and again, but I'm here now, and it's a blessing to be here. And here, I just have coaches that believe in me, trust me during those tough times, like you said, third down and things like that. And that's what I came here to offer. That's what they brought me here to do. So that's what we talked about during the recruiting process, and that's what we came here to do. And like, it's all just kind of we talked about it before, so it's not really too much surprise for any of us in this building. But as far as me just getting more looks, it's just a blessing. Something I've been capable of doing, and now I'm in a position to really show what I can do, and this is all a blessing to be doing it now.
Is it hard to do what you did, to all of a sudden say, okay, I've got another year, I can go somewhere else? Was that a hard thing for you to decide to do?
Just hard from the point, you get used to guys in the locker room. I went there for 4 years. I established a great relationship with coaches and players. And that was the hardest part. It was all just like kind of not necessarily leaving that behind, but moving on from it. And like I knew some coaches here and I knew some players here, but kind of going to a completely different locker room. That was the biggest transition. But the guys and coaches here, it's not too much of a difference. Real good guys, great coaches, and it has made the transition way smoother. And that's why I came to Utah State, because the transition would be easier for me.
What went into that, and how does that work for you? I mean, how quick did you make that decision after Utah? Who did you talk to? What was the process like for you, if you can go into detail for us?
Upon my leaving from Utah, I got in the portal, kind of did everything the compliance told me to do. I had to graduate. I had to finish a couple classes before I graduated. I graduated that May. And Coach A and Utah State got me pretty fast, and also Coach Aaron Roderick and BYU got me pretty fast. And I knew both coach staff from both those schools. During my time in Utah, I spent a lot of time with them, and that was really a big factor. Like, I didn't want to have to get recruited all over again, go into just meet new coaches, meet a whole new players. Just because with these two coaches, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew them. I knew they had my best interest, and they knew what I wanted to do, and I knew what they wanted to do. So it came out of those two schools, and like I said, Coach A is the easy guy to love, and it would be a shame if I didn't follow him here. So we got right away with it, and then Caleb kind of made the decision before I did, and I made a little bit after him, and since then I kind of just knew it was the right fit for me.
So did you two talk to each other as you were going through that process?
Me and Caleb.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me and Caleb, we came into Utah together, so we spent 4 years together. So we were pretty close, and when I was transferring, I found out he was transferring too, and then we kind of told each other the kind of schools we had, and we both had BYU and Utah State, but he wasn't too interested in BYU like I was. But we definitely talked about it, and I knew he was real comfortable being here, and he got on it pretty fast. He didn't want to take any other officials and things like that, so he was an Aggie all the way. And then I was kind of I know the coach staff here, and it'd be good to go with somebody I've been with for the past 4 years. So we definitely talked about it, and kind of came with a decision amongst each other.
Interesting. Have you had a chance to look at any Colorado State film yet?
Yeah, I looked at a little bit this past weekend. I know they're real good team. They're very athletic. They had a couple games to get away from them early on in the season. Defensive backs, they fly around. They play a pretty good, decent amount of man. So we're going to see some man coverage on the outside, things like that. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for this matchup. And they come into Maverick. They're in the 1-3 position. So I feel like they're on the ropes, to either have a great season or let it all slide on hill. And it's definitely going to be a matchup for us. So I'm excited to go into this one.
Do you prefer facing man defense or zone defense, or do you not care?
Yeah, it really doesn't matter to me. I love seeing man. I love seeing zone. Both of them have their strengths. Both of them have the weaknesses. So, we don't really look at too much of the defense, because, at the end of the day, they come out to try to stop us. So that's how we kind of approach things.
You've been amazed at Jordan Love since you've been here?
Yeah, man. I knew he was a good football player, but just him as a person. He's a really good person, really good leader. He's the vocal leader. He gets the guys going. He keeps us up tempo, keeps us up beat, things like that. And that's what really amazed me, aside from his play, because I already knew he was, NFL caliber quarterback. The hype is real. He definitely makes some throws that, amazed me. I played with a lot of good quarterbacks, definitely my career so far, and he's definitely at the top of the list with all the quarterbacks I've played with.
Pretty much on defense, I think this was a defensive game for us. Obviously, without that pick six from Shaq, it would have been a whole different game. So that was big time. I think Halle was able to tip it on that, something like that. And then Shaq was able to get it in. And then our offense, at the end of the game, got us down the field. We weren't able to finish off with the field goal, so defense had to go back out, and we did enough to win. So that's the big draw point from that. You practice those 2-minute situations at the end of practices, all camp and all the time, and we finished the deal. So
Did you like sprinting after the guy on the last play?
Yeah.
That far?
I forget who it was after the game. Was it the AD? He said something like, "Hey, how many miles do you think you ran today just trying to chase the quarterback down?" Their quarterback was good at getting out of the pocket for sure. We knew that, but yeah.
What was your thought process when you're sprinting after a guy 30 yards backwards on the final play? I mean,
There's no way he's going to be able to throw it at least. I don't
Let him
know.
set up.
I don't know. Yeah, I was like just running, honestly. Oh, shoot. Luckily, Justice was able to get a hand on him, and then we were able to get him down. But
what about the play where he's sprinting from sideline to sideline? He goes to his sideline, thinks about it, and goes to the other side, and then finally chucks it. I mean,
and they got that touchdown.
yeah, it's a broken play, but what
Yeah.
do you do, right?
I just watched that play, actually. So I was coming. Tipa, we had a spy. Tipa was a spy, and I was coming off, and he sees Tipa and turns and bails around, and I miss him. And then we're just running him down. And, I mean, they were just – sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes – I mean, those are honestly just good thinking by that receiver to stay on that side of the field, because I know they're taught that, because our guys ended up leaving him alone, and then the quarterback was smart enough to plant his feet and get the ball over, because that's a tough throw to – because I know he's tired. He's been running around back and forth, and then to able to set his feet and get it across the field to him. Props on them for that play, because, I mean, they capitalized on our mistakes for not getting him down, and that was good. Kept him in the game.
Just talk about your transition to Utah State. I know you had to bust your tail end off to finish up your summer courses to be able to transfer here, and you weren't able to take part of all of fall camp because you had to finish your stuff up at Utah. So just how difficult was it? Was it an easy transition? What was it like trying to just cram everything in the last couple of weeks of fall camp?
Oh, wow. So actually, in all, I finished 58 credits in 2 semesters to get here. So that spring semester, I was still with the team at Utah, and then my first set of tests and quizzes came along, and I was in 21 credits at this point. And I did pretty poorly on it, and I was like, crap, I got to tell them I can't do – because I was planning on transferring, obviously, because I was loading up my classes, but I wasn't like, okay, I'm doing it yet, until I really bombed those first few quizzes. And I told them that I wanted to leave, and then had another 21 credits in the summer. And really, it was manageable without football. The structured practices, I was obviously doing my own things, but the finals week is where it was killing me, because I remember I had 9 different quizzes or final papers, or tests or final papers I had to do in that last week, and I'm trying to get my stuff ready to move up here, trying to get everything. It was not easy, but it is definitely worth it. I love Utah State. I love Logan. I love everything about this team. This is definitely where I need to be. It took a lot to get here. Took a lot of sacrifice, and I feel like it was all worth it to get here.
Was Utah State always the team you wanted to come to?
Coach Anderson is the coach I want to play for big time, and I feel like having Coach Enna as the defense coordinator, having all the defensive guys come up with Coach Hicks, and we've got Bo in the equipment room. The transition from that perspective was really nice. I wouldn't say it was easy. It's not easy, but it's still very familiar. The workouts, familiar. They're like a lot of what Utah used to do, but it's very different in the same way. It's similar, but it's very different. I like the changes and I left the way we have it here. So.
It's, in the game itself, there looked like there was an adjustment how you played them of their running game. They were creasing towards your spot and that a lot early in those drives. Second half, they tried to do some of it, and they couldn't do the same thing. Was there a lot of adjusting done there?
To our defense?
Yep, on your defense for their run game.
I think more of it was we were more stout knowing the blocking scheme that they were running. And obviously we had a lot of time to prepare for the blocking scheme, but I feel like a lot of it is you can see how they block on film, and then once you feel it in real life, game speed, then you're able to adjust your personal technique and how you're going to take on those blocks. And yeah, I guess we did a lot better second half, and we were able to shut it down.
And then, I mean, they have good running backs. This guy, Colorado State,
Yeah.
is really explosive. I don't know if you looked at their film much or started to look at him, but it looks like he can really, if he gets a crease, he'll go. This
Yeah.
guy too.
Yeah, they're definitely good as well. I mean, biggest way to win a game is stop the run game, and you got to stop the rushing, and that's going to be the first place we got to stop them, and then we want to make them pass, right? You always want to stop the run, because if they can run on you, then that's the biggest slap in the face, you know. And we pride ourselves in being tough, run-stopping defense, you know. So.
With all the homecoming festivities and all the things that I'm sure the football players will be asked to participate in, parades and such, is it hard to be able to put the time in? Well, not, I shouldn't say it like that. Is there any difficulty with being able to get the film study in and such with all the things you guys are going to be asked to do off the field for homecoming?
I mean, I'm sure it'll be a distraction if you let it be a distraction. You know, it just depends on what you're going to be able to prioritize, and you got to make time for it, you know. And that's it. That's the biggest thing, just prioritizing watching film. And what's the most important thing during this week? Is it the homecoming festivities, or is it the game? You know, and our goal is always to win the game. So.
Great big quarterback too to go after this guy that's playing for them now, 6'5", 244. He's listed.
Yeah, that's a
as.
big guy.
He's as big as some of you guys.
Yeah, bigger they are, the harder they fall, right? But yeah, I mean, he's a big guy. That's always an advantage for him to be tall.
So a big guy like that probably stands in the pocket. So that kind of stuff. What's pass rush against that kind of thing like?
If he's going to stay in the pocket, we'd like to collapse it on him, you know, make it to where he has nowhere to run. I don't know how good of a runner he is, but make a guy who's not good at running run, and you'll probably win that.
I mean, you talk about priding yourself on stopping the run, and that's why the Aggies beat San Diego State on Saturday. The
Yeah.
previous two games, they ran all over the back in 2015-16, they just ran for a ton of yards. So,
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, how gratifying was it to go out there and really make them earn basically every rushing yard they had?
I mean, that's awesome to do. I don't remember who it was in the locker room. Was it Cato, I think? Cato, he said, man, it feels like we haven't beat these guys since NAM. I was like, hold up, when was the last time you beat them? I think it was. So, I mean, it was awesome for the program to get that win, you know what I mean, be able to stop them in the run, what they pride themselves in being tough guys at. So that was awesome. It was awesome to come back, because that would have been a long bus ride. Because I got home at 6:30 in the morning. The sun was about to start coming over the mountains. And I was like, geez, that would have really sucked to come home with a loss. But it was fun. It was good.
I mean, everyone wants to talk about next Saturday. LSU is probably one. Some are saying it's going to be the greatest team that Aggies have ever faced, ever. I mean, this LSU squad. What is the focus like, though, on a Mountain West Conference opponent, Colorado State, and not looking ahead to Death Valley next Saturday morning?
I mean, LSU's, we can't even worry about them yet. We just got to beat Colorado State, because how bad would that suck if you lose Colorado State? You want to have momentum going into the LSU game. You don't want to lose a game, feel, all right, crap, you know, we lost. We would be 2-2 if we lose that game. So, I mean, you want to be coming with a lot of momentum versus that team, because they're obviously a good SEC top 10 team right now, but we got Colorado State this week. So focus there, build that momentum, get us ready and right for that game, and take it on when it comes.